The Nagato class was a pair of dreadnought battleships built for the Imperial Japanese Navy towards the end of World War I, although they were completed after World War I. They were the first and last class of Japanese ships which carried the larger 16.1-inch guns compared to the 14-inch guns of the Fuso and Ise class battleships, as well as the Kongo class battlecruisers. Nagato was usually serving as a flagship. As part of the 8-8 plan, they would be planned as an important part of the main battle line of 16 capital ships. Advances in naval technology like the Dreadnought and the Invincible class forced Japan to re-evaluate the design. Originally only Nagato would be built, but after the Americans announced a plan for 10 additional battleships as well as 6 battlecruisers, the second ship would be ordered and named Mutsu. They used an all-or-nothing armor scheme used in the American battleships designed to maximize armor thickness in the most vulnerable areas while eliminating armor elsewhere. A new underwater protection system would be added which could successfully resist penetration by 200-kilogram torpedo warheads. Nagato was laid down at Kure Naval Arsenal in August 1917. She was launched in November 1919 and commissioned in November 1920. Mutsu was laid down at the Yokosuka Naval Arsenal in June 1918. She was launched in May 1920 and commissioned in October 1921. As built, their standard displacement weighed just over 32,700 tons. Overall length was at 708 feet or 215.8 meters. Beam was at 95 feet 3 inches or just over 29 meters, and draft was at 29 feet 9 inches or just over 9 meters. 21 water tube boilers generated 80,000 shaft horsepower. 4 shafts connected to 4-geared steam turbines gave the ships the speed of 26.5 knots. As completed armament consisted of 4 twin 16.1-inch main guns, 20 single 5.5-inch guns and casemates, 4 single 3-inch anti-aircraft guns, and 8 21-inch torpedo tubes. Waterline belt thickness was from 3.9 up to 12 inches, deck at 5.7 inches, gun turrets from 7.5 up to 12 inches, barbettes at 12 inches, and conning tower at 14.5 inches. The Nagato class was equipped with a heptapodal 7-legged mast to maximize rigidity for range fighting purposes and survivability under fire. The central leg had an electric elevator running inside. In the Washington Naval Treaty, Mutsu narrowly missed being scrapped. The ships brought supplies to the survivors of the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923, and in the 1930s, the 2 battleships received various upgrades. The main battery turrets were replaced by the newer ones planned for the Tosa-class battleships, which gave the guns a higher elevation. Larger bulges were installed which increased torpedo protection. Torpedo tubes would be removed as well as some of the secondary guns. The 3-inch guns would be replaced by the 5-inch dual-purpose guns, and 25mm anti-aircraft guns would also improve anti-air capabilities. The boilers were replaced, the stern was lengthened, and they received the pagoda mast. Displacement grew by thousands of tons. For example, Mutsu's standard displacement in 1943 would be just over 39,000 tons. A catapult for float planes would also be added to both ships. The 2 ships transported 3,749 men of the 11th Infantry Division to Shanghai during the Second Sino-Japanese War. They became training ships until Nagato became the flagship of the combined fleet in 1938. The Nagatos were refitted in 1941 for the preparation for war with the United States. Nagato was the flagship for Japanese ships while carrier aircraft attacked Pearl Harbor. They would take part in the Battle of Midway, being with the Yamamoto's main body of the First Fleet. Over half of the survivors of the 4 carriers would be placed on the 2 Nagatos, which transported them to Haserajima on June 14th. Mutsu took part in the Solomons campaign, and she with the cruiser Atago and 9 destroyers attempted to locate the escort carrier Long Island. During the Battle of the Eastern Solomons, Mutsu fired 4 shells at enemy recon aircraft during her only action of the war. She would be used as a training ship until her loss. On June 8, 1943, Mutsu's magazine from turret number 3 exploded and the ship was cut in half. Only 353 survivors were rescued of the 1,474 crew members of the battleship. The loss of the ship was declared as a state secret to avert potential damage to morale. Anti-aircraft guns would be added on Nagato during the war. In October 1944, Nagato participated in the Battle of Leyte Gulf as a part of the center force composed of Yamato, Musashi, Nagato, Kongo, and Haruna. They would be attacked by multiple aircraft, and in the Battle of the Sibuyan Sea, she received damage by a pair of bombs. The next morning, she participated in the Battle of Samar, engaging escort carriers and destroyers of Taffy 3. She would be hit in the bow by 2 bombs later in the day, but the damage was not severe. Lack of fuel and materials meant that she could only be used as a stationary anti-aircraft platform in one of Japan's ports. She would be hit by 2 bombs and a rocket from American torpedo bombers and fighter bombers. Nagato survived the war and would be taken over by the Americans. Nagato was then a target ship in Operation Crossroads, a U.S. nuclear weapons testing operation at the Bikini Atoll in mid-1946. Test Able, an airburst nuclear bomb lightly damaged Nagato as the ship was not close to ground zero. Test Baker, an underwater explosion, created a tsunami, but Nagato only received light damage besides a slight loss to starboard. Because she was closer to ground zero, the ship became highly radioactive. The list increased over the next 5 days and she capsized on the night of July 29th to 30th. Nagato was open to divers in 1996 and is named by the Times as one of the top 10 diving wreck sites in the world. Mutsu was salvaged in the 80s and little remains of the ship, the most interesting being her secondary guns as well as two of the main guns kept in Japanese museums.